Today we are painting this simple blue butterfly and white flower in watercolor. This painting is not meant to be realistic, and the butterfly is not based on any particular species. You can use your imagination and choose any colors you like. Wet on wet is the key technique in this painting. Let's gather our supplies and get started. I begin with the outline, which you can find in the description along with the full materials list. I gently lighten the pencil lines with a kneadable eraser. Next, I mix a little gray with plenty of water. I use this very diluted mixture to paint the base layer on the white flower petals. I am not trying to paint them too carefully or precisely. Today, we are keeping the painting more loose and relaxed. While the flower is still wet, I drop a little olive green into the center. This is not meant to be any particular flower either. It is simply a small white flower. I paint the flower bud with the same diluted gray mixture. I drop a slightly darker gray along some of the petal tips and edges. I add the same darker gray around the edges of the bud. Next, I add French Ultramarine, Phthalo blue-green shade, and neutral tint to my palette. I allow the colors to mix only partially instead of blending them completely. I wet the lower wing with clean water. My water is already slightly tinted, which is why the wing has a little color at this stage. While the wing is wet, I drop some blue around the edges. I add a darker mixture near the base and along the outer edge. You can use your imagination during this part. A small touch of cobalt teal could also look beautiful here. I am leaving it out this time. I try to preserve a lighter area in the middle of the wing. Some areas are left almost completely white. I dry the lower wing before moving on. I paint the front upper wing using the same wet on wet technique. I dry that wing before painting the one behind it. I paint the back wing in the same way. Next, I use a diluted blue mixture to paint the butterfly's body. I begin with the head. I leave the eye area unpainted. I make the underside of the body slightly darker. I use a rigger brush to paint the thin and delicate antenna. I add a small rounded tip to the end of each antenna. For these details, I use my darkest blue mixture. Next, I paint the wing veins with a diluted blue mixture. Try not to use a color that is too dark. A lighter color keeps the veins looking softer and more natural. Now I move on to the flower stem. I already have some olive green on my palette. I also add one of my favorite colors, Undersea Green. For the darkest green, I mix Undersea Green with neutral tint. You can mix a similar Undersea Green shade using French Ultramarine and Quinacridone Gold. I like keeping Undersea Green ready on my palette because I use it so often. I begin by painting the stem with olive green. While it is still wet, I drop in a little Undersea Green. I add the Undersea Green and neutral tint mixture to the darkest areas. Next, I add some neutral tint to my palette. I use it to paint a few details and shadows on the flower petals. Because the flower is white, the shadows help separate the petals from one another. The gray shadows also help the flower stand out against the white paper. I paint a few small lines in the flower center with olive green. These lines represent the tiny structures in the middle of the flower. I add small yellow dots to their tips using Hansa Yellow Light and Hansa Yellow Deep. I paint the eye with neutral tint. I leave a tiny white spot unpainted as a highlight. I use a rigger brush and a very dark blue mixture to paint the butterfly's delicate legs. I make each leg slightly thicker where it joins the body. The legs become thinner toward their tips. On the far side, I only paint one visible leg. Butterflies have 6 legs in total. You can also add a small curled proboscis if you like. I add a little more gray to deepen the shadows on the flower petals. Next, I add more contrast to the stem and leaves with my darker green mixtures. I concentrate the darker color in the shadow areas. I also add dark lines along both sides of the stem. I use the rigger brush for these fine details. I add small highlights to the eye and antennae with white gouache. I paint small dark spots near the tips of the wings. I do not try to make the spots perfectly round or evenly shaped. I add more dark blue near the bases of the wings using wet on dry. I soften the edges slightly with a clean, damp brush. I add a little more dark color to the upper and lower parts of the butterfly's body. This creates more depth and shadow. I add a little more olive green to the center of the flower. I also strengthen a few of the shadows on the petals. Thank you for painting with me today. I hope you enjoyed this simple butterfly tutorial. See you in the next one.